How could I like the daughter of a servant? It's just a game. Not far away, amidst the clinking of glasses, the man in the center wore a cold and noble expression, as he casually let this sentence slip. I can't afford this game of love. Holding my cheap birthday gift, I quietly left. 2 years later, he gripped my hand tightly, no longer dignified, and pleaded, Grace, don't leave me again. We were in Germany to discuss a partnership with a subsidiary of X Group. Felix, being the young master of X Group, wasn't supposed to be here. His sudden arrival made the lively private room fall silent. He didn't care, casually handed his black long coat to his assistant behind him, and naturally took the main seat. The suppliers, who had been quite bossy moments ago, now wore obsequious smiles. When Helen, a girl from the purchasing department, gasped in my ear, I looked up. It seemed he didn't notice me, or probably had already forgotten me. I looked away nonchalantly, but then I felt like he was looking at me. When I furrowed my brow and looked again, he was smiling as he interacted with the purchasing department manager, appearing polite, but with a tinge of detachment. Meanwhile, my phone in my pocket kept vibrating. It was Helen raving about Felix's good looks in our small purchasing department group chat. Given her reputation for being a fangirl, everyone doubted her words, tagging me to confirm. Helen winked at me, and I had no choice but to reply, he's okay. Helen immediately messaged me privately, freaking out. Such a gorgeous guy, and you just say okay. Seems like Johnny is all you see. But I couldn't be bothered to explain, and didn't reply to her again. Felix's arrival made everyone believe that the cooperation was about to succeed. When we left, everyone had smiles on their faces, and Helen was quite drunk. I had just helped her into a car, when a shadow appeared behind me. Miss Grace, Felix wants to talk to you, the man said formally. He was Felix's assistant, emotionless like a robot, mirroring his boss's true temperament. I don't know your Felix. I was about to get in the car, when he held the door, and said helplessly, Miss Grace, you know Felix's temper. If you don't go, he'll come to you himself. To avoid complications, I nodded eventually. I woke Helen up and told her I had something to handle, asking her to call me when she reached the hotel. A black Mercedes was parked at the corner of the parking lot. A tall figure leaned against the hood, a cigarette glowing at his fingertips. He never smoked in the past. Not sure when he picked up the habit. Not that it mattered to me. Under Leo's eager gaze, I walked over step by step. Felix looked up, extinguishing his cigarette between his fingers. He stood upright, expressionless, and said, Don't want to chat with an old friend. Why such a hurry to leave? I stood half a meter away, feeling no emotions. If he hadn't shown up tonight, we might never have met again. We don't have anything to talk about. His steady gaze bore into me, his thin lips forming a cold line. Just when I thought he wouldn't speak again, he suddenly asked, Why did you leave 2 years ago? 2 years ago, he had the audacity to ask. Thinking about those dark days, my suppressed resentments resurfaced. I said angrily, What's our relationship? Do I need to explain myself to you? What relationship? Felix sneered, taking a big step forward and standing in front of me. Being a head taller than me, his imposing presence was overwhelming. I instinctively took a step back, but he grabbed my hand, grinding his teeth. Grace, I'm your boyfriend. You left without any warning. What do you take me for? Boyfriend? What nonsense. I tried to pull my hand back, but failed. So I pretended to be indifferent and retorted, Did that happen? Weren't we just playing around? Playing around? Felix seemed stunned, his thin lips parted, and his eyes turned red. His pale skin made this change noticeable, and I was too shocked to speak. What was this act? What was wrong with Felix? Always toying with the daughter of a servant. But I had no patience for this. Just as I was about to ask him to let go, my phone rang. I thought it was Helen calling to report she reached safely, but it was Johnny's name glowing on the screen. Confused, I wondered why he was calling so late. Felix stared coldly at my phone screen and asked, Who is it? For some reason, I mentally apologized to Johnny, and with a sweet smile, said, My boyfriend. Before I finished speaking, I was pulled into the car. In the pitch-black darkness, Felix leaned close, his voice low, Grace, don't joke around. I'm your boyfriend. I came to Felix's house when I was 7. My mom worked as a servant in Felix's house. After my dad passed away, my mom brought me to Germany. She couldn't leave her job at Felix's house due to the high salary, nor could she leave me with relatives. In her dilemma, the old lady of the house learned of the situation, and allowed my mom to bring me along. That's how my mom and I started living in Felix's house. The first time I saw Felix was on an ordinary afternoon, a week after I came to his house. My mom was polishing vases in the living room, and I handed her a washed cloth, just as Felix came home from school. He looked at me, the stranger entering his domain, with some vigilance, until the old lady came downstairs to introduce me. He casually asked, "Why isn't she at school?" Afraid he might say, "If she doesn't have to go to school, neither will I," the old lady quickly said, "She's starting school tomorrow." So the next day, I was enrolled in the prestigious kindergarten where Felix also studied. My mom repeatedly warned me not to offend Felix. The two heads of the household were busy with work and barely home the entire year. Felix was being cared for by the old lady, utterly pampered and spoiled. If I upset Felix, we'd be kicked out of his home. So, I didn't dare talk to him, scared to death of saying something wrong. One day after school, he suddenly grabbed me and asked, puzzled, "Are you mute?" My grandma was a spitfire, and I grew up copying her feisty attitude. Before I knew it, I blurted out, "I'm your mom." Felix looked at me, wide-eyed, with a confused expression on his pale, chubby face. As soon as the words left my mouth, I regretted them. I wished I could slap him so he'd forget. Was my mom going to lose her job? Was my butt going to get spanked? To my relief, Felix just looked at me, biting his lip, and said, "No one's ever insulted me before." Thankfully, my butt stayed fine, and my mom didn't lose her job. Instead, Felix started talking to me. During breaks, he'd come over and hand me some chocolate, arrogantly saying, "I can't finish it. You have some." I'd quickly take it. It was the best chocolate I'd ever had. Melt in your mouth, good, sweet, but not overwhelming. I almost wanted to swallow my tongue. "Is it good?" I nodded vigorously. "MHM. He laughed, showing off a row of tiny white teeth, completely forgetting it was a leftover he was sharing with me. "I'll buy you more next time." So, despite the vast gap in social status, we became good friends. Knowing Felix for over a decade, I always thought he was all talk, but soft inside. I never imagined those same lips I had kissed and heard the sweetest words from could utter the harshest things. That was the darkest time of my life. By then, my mom had stopped working for Felix's family. She was planning to use her savings to open a breakfast shop, but she suddenly fainted from a headache while scouting a location. At the hospital, they found a growth in her brain. To determine what it was, more tests were needed. I felt my heart in my throat. The days waiting for results were pure torture, and I desperately wanted to see Felix. But his phone was always busy, our place was always empty, and it was like he vanished without a trace. I had no idea what was going on. Even if he wanted a breakup, he should at least leave a word. I tried reaching out to Felix's friends for information. Felix's friends were just like him, polite on the surface, but cold at the core. "Has Felix contacted you lately?" She was the daughter of one of Felix's uncles. Everything she wore was worth my annual salary. She radiated an aura of wealth. "No." Jessica smiled ambiguously and pulled something out of her bag. "Tomorrow's Felix's birthday. If you're free, you should come." They lived in their own world, and I had my own life to lead. My confidence came from my perfect GPA, annual national scholarships, and job offers before graduation. I never felt inferior or unworthy of Felix. But now, for some reason, my face was burning with embarrassment. I stared at the invitation for a few minutes before stiffly taking it. "Thanks." She stood up, elegantly flicking her hair. "I have a meeting at the company. I should go." Felix's birthday party was at 7 p.m., but I was sitting by my mom's hospital bed, clumsily peeling an apple. A perfectly round apple was mangled by my peeling, now uneven and much smaller. My mom took the apple, smiling, and took a bite. She seemed to remember something and asked, "Isn't tonight Felix's birthday? Did you two have a fight?" I gave a bitter smile. "Mom, we haven't talked for half a month. He probably wants to break up." My mom was silent for a while, then gently touched my head. "Sweetheart, you've known each other for over 10 years. No one understands each other better. You need to talk things out." She gave me a little push, erasing my last bit of hesitation. I'm not a coward. Why was I acting so scared about this? This wasn't me. I could accept breaking up, but I couldn't handle a vague, unresolved end. I went home, found the birthday gift I had already prepared, a painting. It was from the day he confessed to me. 18-year-old Felix blushed for the first time, standing behind me, nervously holding my hand. It was also my first painting of him. We had taken art lessons together, because he wanted to do everything with me. The old lady hired a teacher for both of us. I had no talent for painting. He always said my work was ugly, but still kept every piece. In middle school, I gave a hand-drawn landscape to my deskmate as a birthday gift, which made Felix upset for days until I took it back. Our past was mostly sweet moments, but I never thought that sweetness would be torn apart in the worst way. Wearing an outdated dress and carrying a carefully wrapped, but cheap gift, I barged into a world where I didn't belong. Felix was like a prince, surrounded by people, exuding grace. He casually said, "How could I fall for a maid's daughter? It was just a fling." Jessica seemed to notice me. She shot me a contemptuous glance and then clinked glasses with Felix. The sound of the glasses clinking was clear and crisp. Their laughter felt like daggers stabbing my heart, turning Felix's familiar face into something grotesque. I stumbled away and ripped the painting into pieces, tossing them in the trash, along with every drawing he had kept of mine. Then I got a call from the hospital and rushed over in distress. Miracles didn't happen for my mom. I got the worst news. The thought of losing her felt like my world was crumbling, but I couldn't give up. As long as there was a sliver of hope, I wouldn't. My mom squeezed my hand. She could see through my optimistic facade to my crumbling state. She seemed to guess something and softly said, "Grace, I want to go home." My nose stung as I swallowed my sobs and held her hand tightly. "All right, Mom, let's go home." While I was handling various procedures, Felix's mom found me. She had already approached me when she knew about my relationship with Felix, looking down on me with utter disdain. This was the second time. I looked at the check and accepted it, saying sincerely, "Thank you. I'll leave Germany." The first time I saw this check, it felt absurd. I never thought something out of a novel would happen to me. Now, I felt more relief. This money could cover my mom's future treatment costs. I wasn't stupid. How could I refuse it again? The corners of Felix's mother's mouth curled up, as if to say, "See, you're in it for the money." I remained expressionless, considering it as the payment for a pretend relationship with Felix. I gave my feelings, he gave me money. We were even. I brought my mom back to G-City, changed my phone number and other contacts, severing all ties with Germany like a desperate, fleeing mouse. In the following 2 years, I often woke up from nightmares, with Felix's last words echoing in my ears. That sentence circled me like a nightmare. Hearing his words in the darkness made it feel like the nightmare had returned. I didn't know where the strength came from, but I pulled out my right hand and slapped him in the face. I could hear my voice cold and surprising. "Are you even fit to say that?" Couples divorced after being separated for 2 years. What we had was at most a child's play, no feelings at all. "I have a new boyfriend, Felix. Are you trying to be the mistress?" As soon as I finished speaking, his breathing became rapid, and he stared at me intently. In the reflection of the streetlights, his eyes shone brightly like a fierce beast staring at its prey within this narrow, dim space. I regretted provoking Felix in such a situation. After all, he wasn't known for his good temper. I hit puberty earlier than my peers. In middle school, there would be boys talking about my body and other girls' bodies during runs. Once, during a sports meet, Felix was delivering water when he overheard their comments. He took the cup and threw it at those boys, standing aside coldly watching them. The warm water splashed all over them, and they angrily cursed at Felix. I didn't know what was happening, thinking they were about to fight, and wanted to intervene. But Felix's buddies stepped in first. They had a skirmish until the teachers pulled them apart. Before parting, Felix coldly threatened, "Watch your mouths." His demeanor was indeed intimidating, and though the boys were indignant, they didn't say a word and walked away. Now, I felt like I was facing that version of Felix, pretending to be calm. I glared at him but wondered, would he hit me? Outside was just Leo. With his loyalty to Felix, if Felix killed me, Leo would probably help bury the body. I swallowed a gulp, and quietly reached for my phone to use legal means for protection. Suddenly, my collarbone was attacked. Sharp teeth grazed my skin, sending chills down my spine. "Are you insane?" I screamed and slapped him again. He silently got out of the car. His elongated shadow under the street lamp obscured his facial expression as he spoke. "Leo, take her back." "Yes, sir." The moving street scenes outside bewildered me. Did Felix really just let me go? At a red light, Leo suddenly said, "Miss Grace, Felix looked for you for a long time after you left. If there's any misunderstanding, it's best to clear it up soon." I scoffed sarcastically. "How much did your paycheck rise to be this loyal?" He was silent and finally said as he restarted the car, "Thank you for asking, Miss Grace. It just hit 7 figures this year. My apologies. If I made that much, I'd treat my boss like family too, even hand-washing their underwear." Felix excluded, of course. Playing with people's feelings is disgusting. As soon as I got out of the car, I rushed into the hotel without looking back. I thought tonight would be my last encounter with Felix. With his pride, he wouldn't want to see me again. But I hadn't received Helen's call to tell me she was safe. Worried, I called her, but she didn't pick up. We shared a room. When I entered, I saw her sprawled at the foot of the bed, deeply asleep, her phone quietly lying on the floor. Helen's phone didn't have a password, and I saw she was on the dial page, likely about to call me before falling asleep. I helped her up, and she mumbled, "Grace, you're back. before turning over and continuing to sleep. Our negotiations with the supplier went smoothly. Their attitude shifted from cold to enthusiastic, promising to show us the factory the next morning. I felt relieved. It seemed Felix hadn't meddled. This supplier was sought out by many in the industry, with top-notch production lines meeting the highest standards. I documented these observations and sent them to the company, which was very pleased. Next came the pricing stage. The suppliers still hadn't set a price, telling us to wait as they were still discussing. We couldn't appear too eager, so our manager gave us some time off to have fun. Before we arrived, we had received a bunch of shopping requests from colleagues. So, Helen dragged me straight to the largest shopping mall. Helen, once inside, was like a wild horse out of control, impossible to rein in, with unstoppable shopping power. I didn't expect a shopping spree in the afternoon and wore high heels. After half an hour, my feet ached, so I sat in AG store waiting for Helen. Isn't this Grace? Long time no see. I was secretly rubbing my sore heel when I noticed 4 legs and heard a familiar voice. I stopped my disgraceful action and felt speechless. I looked up and forced a smile. Jessica, long time no see. A polite person should stand up and greet at this point, but I wasn't polite. I sat firmly. The girl next to Jessica looked puzzled. Jessica, who is she? Felix's ex-girlfriend. Jessica tilted her head as if thinking, then chuckled. If you count it, I guess that's right. The girl smirked with a subtle expression. Oh, it's her. She doesn't seem very polite. I knew right then this group of spoiled rich kids must talk about me behind my back a lot. I've outgrown the age of feeling ashamed of being poor. I just find them dull. Logically, I should know Felix's friends well since we've known each other since we were kids, but I barely know them because I can't join in their activities. They would go skiing in Switzerland, diving in Indonesia, and yacht partying all over different countries. I can't do any of these things because I'm broke. In the beginning, Felix would drag me along. He took me skiing for the first time. He took me to the bunny slopes and taught me again and again. I fell countless times, and he patiently taught me how to get back up. After a few days, I could sort of ski a few steps. All my skiing gear was bought by him. At the time, I had no idea about the prices. When I looked them up later, I was so shocked that I quickly returned them. My mom found out and told me never to be arrogant, or to take things that don't belong to me. So the next time Felix invited me, I had to lie and say I was afraid of the cold and nearly got sick last time. He then gave up. Felix's friends would insinuate that I was clinging to him, but they didn't dare say it in front of Felix, because the only time Felix fought was for me. Felix's speech at his 24th birthday party probably pleased many of his friends. Before, they would just subtly indicate that I was not one of them. That was a fact. So I pretended not to understand and kept our superficial pretenses. Now they were nauseating me first. Why should I be polite to them? I elegantly rolled my eyes. My manners are reserved for people. The girl had probably never been insulted before. Her face changed. What do you mean? I spread my hands. Couldn't you tell? With that level of intelligence, you should stick to counting the sun during the day and looking for the moon at night. With that IQ, stop bothering me. I should be Felix's ex. I should be your mom. The girl said with gritted teeth. Country bumpkins are vulgar. I extended my fist under their noses. Not only am I vulgar, but I'm also fierce. If you keep seeking attention in front of me, be careful, or I'll tear your face apart. The girl stepped back a few paces, clearly frightened. Jessica looked at me in some surprise, probably not expecting I had a temper too. She opened her mouth but was interrupted by a voice. What are you doing? I froze. Leaving the house today undoubtedly brought bad luck. Why was Felix here? He was wearing a fitted black suit and holding a bag of something. Jessica glanced at him and then at me, sneering. Felix, wouldn't it be bad if your parents knew you were mingling with her again? Felix looked at her for a moment, then suddenly smirked and leaned close to her ear to say something. Jessica's face instantly darkened. She gave me a complicated look and then dragged the girl away. I glanced at Felix in confusion. What did he say to get such an immediate result? Felix pursed his lips. Her boyfriend is her college classmate. He just started working at her father's company, but she's currently on a blind date. That's a lot of information. Annoyed, I said. Why do I keep running into you everywhere? This square belongs to my family. I had forgotten about that detail. Felix squatted in front of me and grabbed my foot. His palm was cold, and I quickly pushed him away. What are you doing? He didn't say anything, just took out a pair of flat shoes from the bag and helped me put them on. I frowned at him. I can change them myself. By the time I finished speaking, he had already changed my shoes and put my high heels into a shoebox, standing aside holding it. He looked at me steadily, his gaze complicated, as if he had a lot to say. His thin lips parted. Grace. His gaze made my scalp tingle. I got up to leave, but someone suddenly called me from behind. Grace. I blinked in surprise, turning around. What are you doing here? How come familiar faces kept showing up one after another? Especially this one. Wasn't he supposed to be in G-City? Johnny walked over, smiling warmly. The company values this new supplier development project. They sent me to check it out. He paused, his gaze passing over Felix without acknowledgement. And I wanted to see you too. We walked toward the center of the square to wait for Helen. I was curious about how Johnny knew I was here. He smiled and showed me his phone, opening Helen's Twitter. Left Grace here to shop some more. The picture attached was me sitting in the cafe secretly rubbing my foot. No wonder. Soon, Helen ran over, carrying a bunch of shopping bags. Her eyes lit up when she saw Johnny, and she greeted him boldly. Johnny, why are you here? She skidded to a stop in front of us, her gossipy gaze shifting between Johnny and me, grinning mischievously. Missed our Grace, huh? Johnny, being easygoing, just smiled politely, making Helen's playful banter seem natural. I twitched the corner of my mouth, not sure what Johnny was thinking. He didn't deny it and just smiled warmly. Felix had come out and stood not far away, presumably hearing most of it. A few days ago, I had told a little white lie in front of him, so I could only tacitly agree. Johnny took the bags from Helen. Let me help you with those. How could I let you? Despite her words, Helen handed everything to Johnny without hesitation. Helen widened her eyes at Felix, showing her typical fangirl expression, caught between wanting to approach and hesitating. She whispered to me, "Did you see Felix? Why is he here?" "It was a coincidence," she shyly said. "Should I go over and say hi?" Afraid she might say something shocking, I quickly pulled her back. Not a good idea. Helen looked disappointed. All right then. The manager knew Johnny was in Germany and suggested a dinner gathering in the work group chat. We decided to head back to the hotel first. Before leaving, I remembered something I hadn't done yet and asked them to go ahead and hail a cab. I went to find Felix. "Give me back my shoes." "And how much were the ones you brought me?" "I'll reimburse you." Felix clutched the bag with the shoes tightly. "I'll give you the shoes next time we meet." I reached for the bag, pretending to be troubled. "What if I don't want to see you again? My boyfriend wouldn't be happy." Felix didn't let go, his face tight, Adam's apple moving up and down as if suppressing something, with a hint of grievance in his eyes. I looked at him, puzzled. 2 years ago, he was the one who suggested just messing around. Now, 2 years later, he's the one who won't let go. What is he trying to do? Is this love game that fun? Feeling annoyed, I let go. "Forget it, keep it. It's yours." I turned away. Felix called my name softly, but I pretended not to hear and walked towards Johnny and the others without looking back. After dinner, Johnny rode with Helen and me. He sat in the passenger seat, and Helen, as usual, was drunk and laid her head on my lap. In the quiet car, I felt a bit awkward thinking about that afternoon and said to Johnny, "Helen was just joking this afternoon. Don't take it to heart." Johnny turned back slightly, smiling. "What if I did take it to heart?" I stammered. Forget it, I know." He shook his head with a smile and changed the subject. "That Felix is your ex-boyfriend, right?" I wasn't surprised. It was all in the past. "When I found your phone, your lock screen was him." "Not anymore." Johnny chuckled. "Got it." I laughed awkwardly. I met Johnny by chance while bringing my mom back to G-City. I was exhausted and busy, looking for a job while taking care of Mom. That afternoon, Mom was prepping for surgery. I had an important interview that morning and rushed to the hospital afterward. It was raining. The wait for a cab was long, so I decided to take the bus. After getting off the bus, there was still a 10-minute walk to the hospital. Without an umbrella, I sprinted to avoid getting soaked and bumped into Johnny at the hospital entrance. In a hurry to see my mom, I apologized and rushed off, not noticing I dropped my phone. When I came back to look for it, Johnny was waiting at the door with my phone. He smiled. "I thought you might need it urgently, so I waited." He waited for over half an hour. The kindness of a stranger in a new city warmed my heart. I offered to buy him a meal as thanks, and we exchanged contacts. Unexpectedly, before I could thank him, I saw him again when I joined my new company. We stared at each other in the elevator until he broke the silence, smiling. "What a coincidence. We're co-workers now. If you're free, you can treat me this afternoon." Johnny was straightforward and sincere. He was both a mentor and friend, playing a significant role in my growth in G-City. I was grateful, but clear that I had no romantic feelings for him. Since he never confessed, rejecting him would seem presumptuous. The negotiation was stuck, with the supplier's words vague and suspicious. Anyone could tell something was off. Helen grumbled. "The other day, They showed us the factory and were so nice. What's with the stringing us along now? I looked at the supplier's background info. The massive X group stood out. I think I understood the issue. I had changed my number. But some things are unforgettable. I skillfully typed out a string of numbers and sent a text. Funny, isn't it? Come find me. You know where I am. I clutched my phone, teeth grinding. That corrupt scoundrel. I wanted to slap him right then. Helen, unaware of the situation, thought I was mad at the supplier. Shivering, Grace, I know you worked hard for this deal, but it's not worth getting sick over it. I patted her head gently. You're right. I'm going to take a walk. Helen, like a scared puppy, nodded slightly. I hailed a cab and went straight to the destination. I knocked several times, but no one answered. I texted Felix, but no reply. I then tried a number, 111000809. The door opened. November 10th is my birthday. August 9th is his. He hadn't changed it. Inside, everything was familiar. A painting I had done years ago hung in the hallway, which I had broken and torn before leaving, but someone had pieced together and framed again. My high heels, taken by him, were on the shoe rack. On the coffee table were the couple's cups we DIY'd when we first got together, forming a heart when placed together. A yellow sticky note still hung on the fridge. Don't eat all my ice cream, or you sleep on the couch. It felt like time had stopped since I left. I tore off the sticky note, leaving a mark on the fridge, crumpled it, and tossed it in the trash. The bedroom door was wide open, faint sounds coming from inside. Felix, in white loungewear, sat cross-legged on the bed, bathed in the cool light, focused. He was piecing together the drawings I had torn apart years ago on a whiteboard, with snippets on the left and finished pieces on the right. A thick sack on the right hinted at how long he'd been at it. I was furious, rushing to flip the board over. Felix, is this funny to you? He looked dazed. I'm sorry. I sneered and said, you did wrong me, but your mom handed over the money, so we're even. From now on, you walk your single plank bridge, and I'll take my main road. We won't have anything to do with each other, okay? It seemed like he already knew I took his mom's money. There was no shock on his face, just a stubborn look in his eyes. I told you I could find you no matter where you hid. I didn't do it. So now you're mad at me, right? I was stunned. My memory flashed back to the winter after graduating from middle school, when Felix took me and his friends to ski in Switzerland. I kept falling. Felix stood by, urging me to get up on my own. Halfway up once, I slipped again and fell. I got mad and sat there, refusing to get up. Felix watched me for a while, sighed, then lifted me up, pinching my face. Clumsy, like a little penguin. I slapped his hand away and glared at him. You're the clumsy one. I wanted to prove myself and impress him. So the next day I snuck out to practice while he was still asleep. And then I got lost. The world was blanketed in white snow, and the trees all looked the same to me. I couldn't tell which path I had taken. I wanted to call Felix, but my phone had shut off from the cold. There was no one else around. I experienced real fear for the first time, hugging my snowboard tightly, huddled under a tree, praying Felix would find me soon. Just as I was about to pass out from the cold, I saw Felix with a group of people, running towards me, his face pale. Grace? For the first time, I felt he was reliable. I clung to his neck, burying my face in his chest, muttering, Felix, why'd you take so long? Felix had developed later than me. He was just about my height now, and we were both uncomfortable with this embrace. But he didn't push me away. His voice was unusually gentle. It's okay, don't be scared. I'm not scared, just worried you wouldn't find me. He warmed my nearly numb ears with his hands and whispered in my ear, no matter where you hide, I can find you. Back then, that reassurance felt so real. Young Felix used his not-so-strong shoulders to shield me from the wind and snow. Would things be different if our relationship had stayed as friends? Then I thought, when we were friends, did he secretly tell others, a servant's daughter isn't worthy of being my friend? The lesson from that night was too brutal, me like a lone Cinderella in high society. Except Cinderella had royal connections and fairy help. I only had bravery and shaky self-esteem. When Felix's mom first came to me, saying my presence would disgrace Felix, I felt humiliated, but still naive, thinking love conquers all. Felix's words were a rope named reality, pulling me from my dream ocean and stranding me on the shallow shores of reality. This late nostalgia and emotion, maybe he just missed having a follower, wondering if he could sweet-talk me back. But I wasn't playing along. I leaned over and grabbed his collar, forcing him to look up at me. It's all in the past, so why bring it up? Does it bother Felix that I left too easily? Felix grabbed my hand, his expression fragile, no trace of his high and mighty demeanor. Grace, Don't leave me again. I began unbuttoning his shirt and laughed nonchalantly. How about we do what we didn't finish before the breakup? Just don't let my boyfriend find out. Mistresses should know their place to be cherished. His eyelashes trembled. Something seemed to break in his eyes. He pushed me away, his voice shaking. Get out. I left quickly. Before I walked out the door, I turned back and said, stop playing little tricks behind my back. It's childish and boring. Not caring about his thoughts, I turned and left. Outside, I got a call from Johnny. I told him I'd be back soon, and he didn't ask more. That night, a supplier offered us a price lower than what we had anticipated. The boss was grinning ear to ear during the video conference. Our company couldn't usually deal with suppliers of this level. No idea what kind of luck the boss had. Watching his laughing face, something flashed quickly in my mind. I didn't grasp it, letting it slip by, and turned to meet Johnny's thoughtful gaze. A few days after returning to G-City, I received several texts from an unknown number. Felix had fished that sticky note from the trash and stuck it back on the fridge. He also sent a picture of the fridge filled with my favorite strawberry ice cream. I couldn't stand it anymore and replied, annoy me again, and I'll change my number. He didn't send any more messages after that. After a near-death experience 2 years ago, my mom became increasingly sensitive. She constantly feared leaving me alone, so she was more concerned about my marriage. During a meal, she served me some food and asked, Grace, are there any suitable guys at your company? Here we go again, I thought, and made up, there are suitable girls. Mom went silent, but then seemed to make a decision. She slowly said, that's okay too. That made me silent. Wow, Mom, you're so open-minded. Worried she might take me seriously, I said, I was kidding. Mom instantly said, so, there are suitable guys. Is it Johnny? My temples throbbed. Mom, you're a logic wizard. When she was in the hospital for the first time, Johnny came to visit, saying it was on behalf of the company to show concern for an employee. So, my mom kept mentioning him, saying he seemed reliable. That's true, but there were no sparks for me. Mom, we're just friends. She sighed disappointedly and murmured, if only you were with Felix. I lost my appetite instantly. I didn't tell her the real reason Felix and I broke up. I just said we weren't compatible. My mom had worked for Felix's family for over 20 years and watched him grow up. Felix was really good at acting sweet to Mom back in the day, so she treated him like half a son. In my mom's mind, Felix was the best choice for a son-in-law, unmatched by anyone else. Her tone got heavy. What if I leave you all alone? Her words made my nose tingle. Mom, don't talk like that. You'll live a long life. We had just finished eating and I was about to clear the table when my phone rang. I resignedly opened my computer. My mom poured me a cup of hot water and went to the kitchen. Listening to my manager excitedly talk about the future plans of our department, I heard a thump from the kitchen. My heart clenched. I quickly put down my laptop and walked to the kitchen. Mom. To avoid disturbing me, my mom had closed the kitchen door. As soon as I opened it, I saw her holding her head and lying on the floor. Mom. I immediately dialed emergency services. She was hospitalized again. When she woke up, she smiled and reassured me. It's like they say, the first time is unfamiliar, but the second time you know what to expect. After the MRI results came out, the doctor told me that my mom's cancer had turned malignant this time. Even if the surgery was successful, her estimated survival would be around 2 years. Before entering her hospital room, I wiped my tears away. Standing by her bed, looking at her pale face, I smiled. Just like the first time, surgery will make you better. Her surgery was scheduled for 6 p.m. I squatted outside the operating room. Every doctor that passed by made my nerves tense. The hallway was cold that evening, giving me goosebumps under my thin sweater. I didn't dare leave, afraid the doctors would come out if I did. A coat, carrying a mix of cold and warmth, was draped over me. Startled, I turned around to meet a pair of tired black eyes. Why are you here? Felix's voice was hoarse. I heard Auntie was hospitalized. This heard was pretty insightful, and I instantly understood a lot, but I had no energy to argue about it. I just pulled the coat tighter. Thank you. I didn't have the pride to freeze myself. In my mom's condition, if I got sick, who would take care of her? At 10 p.m., Mom was wheeled out. The surgery was very successful, but she needed to be observed in the ICU for a day. When I came back on the third day, my mom had already been moved to a private room, and there was an additional caregiver. My mom was very happy to see Felix. The nurse wouldn't let visitors stay long, so I had to leave with him after just a few words. Indebted to him, I couldn't be too cold. Didn't you go back to Germany? He should be quite busy. His phone kept ringing after he turned it on, but he didn't seem to care and switched it to silent. At my words, he lifted his eyes, full of deep emotions, but his voice was light. I couldn't feel at ease. I avoided his gaze. Who couldn't you be at ease about? Me? My mom. I didn't ask. Another 2 days passed. Mom could sit up. Felix took the earliest flight back to Germany that day. When Mom could get out of bed, another old friend from Felix's family came to visit. Felix's grandmother was very kind. She treated the household staff well. Otherwise, she wouldn't have allowed my mom to bring me into Felix's home. Both my mom and I respected her deeply. She held my mom's hand tightly, her tone full of emotion. It's been years, and you've gotten so thin. My mom had tears in her eyes. You look younger than ever, old lady. When Mom went for her nap, Felix's grandmother pulled me aside to chat. I saw Felix stayed here for days this week. I asked and found out it's because your mom is sick. Poor child, if you need any help, don't hesitate to ask. Felix's parents are stuck in old ways, thinking about social status and all that. Not me. I'm not an old relic. I recognize you as my granddaughter-in-law. Listening, I realized Felix's grandmother didn't know we had broken up. 2 years had passed. How did Felix keep this from her? She looked at me kindly. You two have such a long history. Felix even jumped from the second floor just to see you. His parents have been absent for 20 years. Suddenly resurrecting to play strict and loving. Ridiculous. What? Her words shocked me to the point of almost losing my voice. Jumping out the window. When did that happen? Mom recovered well after surgery and was discharged 2 weeks later. On the day of discharge, Felix came again. He naturally took Mom's luggage. Entering our community, one of my mom's friends came over to greet her. You're discharged. We should join the activities together soon. Is this your son-in-law? Mom beamed and didn't deny it, clearly enjoying herself. Felix wore a gentle and courteous smile, which satisfied my mom's friends even more. Once inside, Felix paused, the warmth in his eyes blown away, leaving them bright. He scanned each spot like he was trying to memorize every detail. Mom went to rest, and I hesitated before sitting next to him. Does your leg still hurt? He was stunned, then looked at me, lips parting lightly. It stopped hurting a long time ago. My nose tingled, feeling a pang of heartache for him once more. Back then, he had jumped from the second floor, breaking his leg. How painful must it have been as he dragged his right leg away. I only knew from Felix's grandmother that he had been grounded by his parents. During the half-month he was unreachable. At the time, they wanted Felix to meet a business partner's daughter. He refused, saying he already had a girlfriend. That's when Felix's parents found out about me. They felt humiliated. A servant's daughter would disgrace them, disgrace Felix's family. They grounded Felix, cut off his contact with the outside world, trying to make him submit. They even approached me, offering money to break up with Felix. I refused, and Felix wouldn't relent either. Felix's parents truly locked him up for a week, until he opened a window and jumped into the backyard. After jumping, he broke his right leg and was hospitalized for 10 days. Felix's grandmother was abroad for health reasons and only heard about it after returning. She was furious. That was the only reason Felix's parents stopped. That year, he came toward me so determinedly. Right now, I feel the urge to uncover my festering wounds and expose them to the sunlight. I hear the tremble and timidity in my voice. I went to your birthday party. I heard everything you said. I didn't know you'd come. You were the last person I wanted to hurt. In Felix's eyes, there was regret and heartache. He said, at the time, I didn't have the ability to protect you. If I didn't act like I didn't care, they would continue to restrict my actions. By the time I went to find you, you were already gone. I've spent the past 2 years working hard to get stronger. Now I can protect you, so I came to find you. My vision blurred, and my throat felt itchy, like something was about to come out, a whimper. If I had been braver back then, if I had walked up to him to ask what was going on, maybe we wouldn't have been apart for 2 years. Thankfully, I've grown too, so I have the courage to ask again. Grace, he wanted to hug me, but hesitated, just looking at me with heartache. I had no hesitation and threw myself into his arms, sobbing, I don't have a boyfriend. You're not a kept man. His voice was as gentle as his actions. I know. I knew from the moment I saw you again. Then why were you mad? Felix sounded particularly aggrieved. Because you kept saying he was your boyfriend. He's not. Clearly, I am. I broke into a smile through my tears. Recently, my mom had been meeting a lot of old guys at events. Middle-aged but still charming. She didn't look at all like a sick person. She said life is short. Happiness or unhappiness, it's just a day either way. You have to live each day to the fullest, as if it's your last. Felix suddenly came to mind. I wondered what he was doing. Want some ice cream? Someone sat down next to me. I was stunned. A strawberry ice cream was held out in front of me. Yes, I took it and bit into it. It was sweet and sour. Felix had a smile on his face. Under the streetlight, his handsome face glowed softly. His red lips and white teeth were very tempting. My heart pounded faster as I quietly asked, "Did you secretly eat some of mine?" "No, I don't believe you, unless you let me try yours." "All right, taste mine." He pinched my chin. I wasn't shy and took the lead. "My Felix is so good. He really didn't sneak a bite."